Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast more likely to be fleeced than the Oakland Athletics. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Co-headliner, is that what you're about to say?
I don't know.
Welcome
what I
to the
was about to
show.
say.
Yeah, no, I like
We
it.
do this every week, and I somehow still flub the intro. And this week we are joined by prospect extraordinaire, but don't make him talk about the kids. We've got Kyle Reis back with us this week. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us.
It's an honor as always, guys. Thanks for letting me be a part of it again.
Absolutely. And this week we are going to be talking about the recent Rule 5 draft, some of the moves that have happened across the offseason, and this hot stove is still lit. If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Kyle, it's been about, 3 or 4 months since the last time you were on the show. We had you on right in the middle of the season. I think we were about to have the 2022 draft, which we want to talk about in a little bit. But first of all, how you been? How are things going? How are you holding up here now in the darkest days of the off season?
I'm doing okay. I was doing a lot better before I realized that we were in the darkest days of the off season. Now I'm concerned. Now I feel like I should feel a little gloomy, a little doomy,
It's truly the darkest times. Now, I guess really that's January is when we're going to really be in the darkest times. But I just see we're heading into the Christmas holiday, all of the various holidays, and, all the news is going to be shutting down here. So I guess.
Yeah, I think people are really anxious for the Rodon news whenever and wherever he signs. And I'm, to your point, kidding aside about like the darkest point of the season, you're right. We're going to get into Christmas and New Year's. And then it usually is like that Matt Holliday time, right? The Cardinals waited until the end of January to sign Matt Holliday. And this is that void usually. So I bring up Rodon because I kind of want him to stay available. Because that might be something that drops at the beginning of January that we all can hey, baseball's happening again. Let's talk about that thing.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it's going to happen soon, but only because he's really one of the last big names, and there's a lot of speculation, and maybe as Cardinal fans, we're really particularly keyed in on this, but Ben, you're ready to pounce.
I just think that's the craziest thing is that he is, we talked about it. There was the tier of aces, and that was DeGrom, Verlander, and Rodon. And it's crazy to me how much movement in free agent pitching has happened with Rodon just kind of sitting out there. Usually I feel like we kind of get this ice cold freeze around this time while they're waiting for the big dog to sign somewhere. And, the conversation about setting the market and so on and so forth. But now we have, people like, oh God, I just forgot the guy who signed with Philly.
Taijuan Walker.
Taijuan Walker getting $70-something million over 4 years in this market makes absolutely no sense. So here we are.
That deal is only looking worse now as Chris Bassett. It doesn't make any sense.
The whole pitching market is crazy. Every contract seems completely independent of the other one. Even the Jose Quintana deal. You say Taijuan Walker, Jameson Taillon, there's no this isn't an accurate use of the word, but there's no congruency between it all. It's like there's no correlation. It's like everybody picks a number out of a hat. All right, so we have two hats. In one hat, it's the number of years, and then in the other hat, it's how much money you're going to get per year. Everybody, close your eyes and put your hand in the hats.
Absolutely. I think maybe part of it is that DeGrom and Verlander being the top of the market, they're a particularly strange top of the market too, though. In one hand you've got ancient Verlander, but he's coming off of a Cy Young season, so how do you value that? And then you've got DeGrom, the best pitcher on the planet, but he can't stay healthy. So how do you value that? And so really I think that's, the more classical top of the market guy like Rodon has not signed yet. And so all these guys underneath it, we're seeing all sorts of things. And I mean, we make fun of the Taijuan Walker deal, but it really stands out. I mean, he got so much more money than all of these other guys that are in the similar class. I mean, he's a little bit younger than like a Bassett or a Quintana or a Tyon, but it's not like his performance has been there. But we spent like half of last week making fun of the Taijuan Walker deal, so we don't want to go too hard on it anymore. But yeah, it's really strange, and now we're getting these rumors about Rodon and like, oh, the Cardinals are a major player, which feels surprising in the first place. But then there's the thing that he wants to go to the Yankees, and is that just a bargain? Of course,
I call
like
bullshit on that, like from 5,000 miles away. I don't.
yeah,
That's Boris. That's Boris and Heyman and their little, what their puppet games or whatever they're playing over there.
Yeah, because what's the worst thing that could happen? He signs with the Yankees. What's the best thing that could happen? The Giants give him an extra $10 million. Not the Giants. The Padres give him an extra $10 million a year. Like, you're right. That's all that is puppeteering. That's coffee running. That's what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's like, oh man, I would prefer to play for the richest organization that's willing. Like, yeah, Durdoy, I also would like to play for the team that will pay me the most amount of money. Turns out, but it is interesting that the Cardinals keep getting named as like a serious contender, and I think we all have, like consistent PTSD of being like, second or third place in these biddings. But I guess in this case, it's just nice to know that like to me, that at least represents that the Cardinals recognize that this is a need to some degree. Now, I think likely if they don't get Rodon, like I'm not really sold on signing anyone else, but it's nice to know we're at least in the running and it's a possibility. And that when he signs some insane deal with the Padres or the Yankees for like 8 years, 250 million or whatever he's going to get, we can all go, well, that was too much money, and and feel okay about it.
I'll be fascinated. I'm fascinated by it all. I think that first off, Ken Rosenthal is as reliable of an insider as you could possibly have, right? Him and Passan are really the only two. Heyman throws out stuff, and sometimes he's right. Morosi, even Bowden, Blind Squirrel catches a nut with Bowden every once in a while. Like, it's really only Rosenthal and Passan. So there's definitely validity to these rumors. But, and also it's not like Mo will do some misdirection. Like, my favorite part about the press conference when they announced Willson Contreras is he said, we had a deal done on Tuesday night, and at the same time, he was telling all of the reporters that they weren't there yet, that they were still trying to do everything. But we knew that there was a contract on Tuesday night. Like we came to find that out. So I only bring that up because on Sunday he's on KMOX. John Mazalek's on KMOX with Mike Claiborne on Sports on a Sunday morning, and he's very quick. And this is when the Rodon rumors started coming out. He's very quick to say, I wouldn't believe the rumors of some of the big name, our connection to some of the big name free agents out there. And granted, I'm doing a poor job of paraphrasing what he says, or what he said rather, but that's what he was saying. Now, again, it could be misdirect, but I get the impression that what's happening here is, and this is me trying to be a forensic scientist, which I am clearly not. I've had one glass of wine, I've had one glass of beer, I've had a little bit of bourbon, and then whatever this black stuff is that is almost certainly from the inside of an engine. And but putting it together, it seems like they're probably in touch with Rodon's people, and they're probably aware of what his ask is, and they're probably aware that they're not as appealing to other starting pitchers because of their starting pitcher situation. Same conversations that they had last year, where it was, hey, we're interested in Jose Quintana in the offseason, but we can't guarantee him a spot in the starting rotation. And then, it's not easy to go to Steven Matz and say, hey, we're going to sign Carlos Rodon. Would you mind going to the bullpen? Or same thing with Montgomery. Like, there's a lot of moving parts here in order to acquire someone. Cardinal fans don't like to hear it. I don't like to try to explain it or hear it. And I think it's just fascinating. And I think it is telling to your point that the Cardinals are involved in the pitching market, and it seems like they're more involved in the trade market too, which is fascinating to me. But I don't know if Rodon's the guy, but it's cool that they're involved.
Yeah, well, it's the same problem that the Cardinals have had for years, really for as long as I can remember, which is for the most part, like it's hard to go out and buy upgrades unless there are these very specific holes, like with Yachty leaving. And so they kind of have to go huge to upgrade the starting rotation or not at all. So I think that's where, like, kick the tires on Rodon, see what his asking price is, see what the market is. If you can get away with a good deal, go for it. But as we're seeing in this market, seems unlikely that Rodon is going to be gotten on any sort of thing that would be considered team friendly. And considering the largest contract the Cardinals have ever given out was just given to Willson Contreras, as far as like just a straight up free agent signing, seems unlikely that they're going to shell out the apparently $200 million that it's going to take to get Rodon.
The fact that a pitcher, and he's a pitcher, so he's the most fragile being on planet Earth. The fact that a pitcher with his injury history is seemingly guaranteed to get $200 million, basically what, like 24 months from being the most fragile human on Earth. Like
He was DFA'd
that
after
speaks,
2020.
Yeah. That's, and then not only that, when he signed that deal with the Giants, I think it was like 2 years, 44 million.
Yeah.
Other teams were like making fun of the Giants or saying, like, how are we supposed to compete in a market where a guy with an injury history is getting $44 million over 2 years? And then he immediately flips that in. Like, if he gets under 190, I would be surprised at this point, not only because of the quality of pitcher that he is, or like, he's not DeGrom, but he's as fragile as DeGrom. And he has the strikeout stuff that is a tick down. Like, he's got he's 30 years old. I think he's got the strikeout percentage. He's got the power fastball. He's going to get $200 million. That's just how it is now.
He is as fragile as DeGrom, but only kind of, because he's had 2 years in a row, or at least last year he was healthy and the year before he was mostly healthy. So like, it does happen where these guys, in their prime years sort of are capable of kicking that injury prone, tag or whatever, and put together a string of healthy years, which is why his price is skyrocketing like it is.
I think, like Kyle brought up the idea. I think that he's right on. I think that Rodon, while I think the Cardinals should do that because of what the starting rotation looks like in 24 and like every year after that, like I like Libby, I like Graceffo, I like some of these young guys, but it looks really scary with Flaherty and Waino and Michaelis and everyone else leaving. I think this is where they should put their money. But I think like what's really interesting is what we learned from the Sean Murphy deal that did not happen is who the Cardinals are interested with getting rid of right now. And I wonder if that changes. Like, obviously, not every player package for every player out there is the same. But the fact that they were pushing towards Dylan Carlson when he seemed to not be available for Juan Soto, like around the last time we talked to Kyle, like only a couple of months ago, and they're pushing Gorman and Burleson and Yepez. Those two make sense to me. But like, I start to wonder what kind of pitcher can that even get you on the trade market? What is this trade market? What competitive team right now who would be looking for players that are that close to the big leagues get rid of one of their starting pitchers? Like, that's a huge mystery to me. I would love those Rosenthal and Passan people to kind of give us a little more insight. I think somebody threw out Max Fried today, which I will tell you that would be the best Christmas gift I could imagine for the Cardinals.
I am with you. I think, it's funny, and it's going to sound so cheap because we're talking about Fried, and of course the Cardinals have Flaherty. But one of the names that I've been like mentally kicking around that the Cardinals, like, I've been thinking about Lucas Giolito. His his issues aside, but it just seems to me that, like, if the Cardinals are indeed in the trade market, more than likely they're not. I can't imagine them being in the trade market with Atlanta, right? They always seem to have this apprehension, unless it's like Malcolm Nunez and Johan Oviedo for Jose Quintana. Nunez, they knew they were going to add to the 40-man. That made him a little bit more expendable, and they had just had enough of Oviedo. Like, they only ever make moves that they think can hurt them, it seems like, if it's almost like a necessity and there's redundancies. And they have outfield redundancies, of course. But, like, I just don't see them, and I hope I'm wrong, because I think Fried's the direction to go in. But I would hope that they're a little bit better than that. But I don't see them going in the Atlanta route, because Atlanta just does right now they seem like they're at the forefront of all the major league organizations, right? They're signing all their young players. They're locking them up. They're trying to be competitive for 10 years. They're developing well. They're signing well. They're trading well. They're using Oakland as their farm system. Like, they're doing everything appropriately. But it just doesn't seem like a fit to me. So when I've been going around, like, who are some of the other guys out there who are maybe coming off of some injuries or some lack of success that just seems like a direction the Cardinals might go in? And I was thinking of Giolito, and I was like, that could be a direction that they might go in. I mean, I don't know what his health is. This is a half-assed thought. Like, I'm sure he's broke down. That just seems to be his thing. But like, I don't know. I just think they need more pitching, and there's no doubt about it. Like, I know that there's an argument to be made that they need more outfield. They need to have a more secure outfield. I'll say they need more pitching, based surely on what we've learned the last couple of years with them going into the season with question mark after question mark after question mark in the starting rotation, and then all folding apart, and then needing to adjust desperately at the break or at the deadline. So that's a little weird rant, and I'm sorry about that because it was incoherent.
No.
But
I think you're right on. And I think, like, I would add a little, like, adjective, like, not only do they need starting pitching, I think that they need pitching in general, but I think they need to focus on, like, I just looked up Giolito's, even in kind of a not super great year, but he still would have been an effective pitcher for the Cardinals last year. It was 9.9 K per nine. Like, that metric is something I think the Cardinals, like, they desperately need. We cannot count on Jack Flaherty to come be the savior of our K per nine. I think if they go get some relievers, which maybe they already have got some relievers that are going to fix their K per nine in the bullpen, that's great too. But I think K per nine in the starting rotation is kind of desperate right now. Those games where somebody can just kind of dominate and, like, almost give the defense a day off. And I think Giolito's really interesting. The thing with Giolito, and I'm just going to pick on that because you brought his name up, is the fact that, like, or not the fact, it's the lack of a fact. Like, what are the White Sox doing? Are they still trying? Are they going to win a division? Did they just, like, did their window drive right past them with the Tony La Russa experiment? I don't understand what happened.
Are they willing to even move someone like him?
Well,
he had a weird year last year.
There's been those rumors about them being willing to move Hendricks. So you just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I've seen the name, and this was brought up a lot at the trade deadline. I think this is another interesting one. And the Cardinals have partnered or paired with this team for varying successes. The Marlins and Pablo Lopez, which I think would be
Pablo Lopez.
Incredible. And the Marlins seem to be a pitching factory, so you'd think that they'd be willing to give up someone in order to fix that lineup. But they're another team that it's kind of hard to figure out, like, how do they view their window? What are they doing right now? Like, they're in one of the most stacked divisions in baseball. They're not close to competing with the Braves and the Phillies, so maybe now's the time to trade someone like Pablo Lopez, or maybe they see him as a part of the future. I don't know. But
I was going to say, to what you were talking about a little earlier ago that we kind of got segued from, they seem like the kind of team that might be interested in the same players that have been rumored to be of Oakland Athletic interest in a Sean Murphy trade, but also you would think would also be interested in some of the names that Mr. Ken Rosenthal has linked that the Cardinals were willing to move in that trade. Like, you would think young, controllable assets that are still a couple years away from arbitration would be exactly what the Marlins would look for in a move like that. It was rumored, not to, like, hijack the whole thing here, but it was rumored, of course, that Juan Yepes and Alec Burleson, Dylan Carlson were all names that the Cardinals were willing to move in a trade for Sean Murphy. Again, we don't know if that's true or not. We respect Rosenthal, but, like, I think all three of those guys would be the type of player that the Marlins would be interested in. Left-handed power is not easy to find. And sure, like, you don't know exactly what that left-handed power is going to be if Nolan Gorman keeps his organization-long inability to hit fastballs up in the zone and then have trouble adjusting, starts sitting on the fastball up in the zone, and he can't hit breaking pitches low and in because of it. You never know how he's going to adapt to that because he's never really adapted to it. Like, but that's still a commodity. controllable left-handed power is a huge commodity.
Yeah.
And the Pablo Lopez has injury concerns and longstanding injury history, and maybe some questionable medicals that would push teams away from trading for him, and maybe that's why he's still on the Marlins instead of being traded at the deadline. But that would probably reduce his price and would make him more in the Cardinals' alley, would be my guess.
He's just discount bin enough and just good enough to make sense. And yeah, I think just picking a couple of names out of the hat, like Dylan Carlson in center field for the Marlins and Nolan Gorman playing first or second makes so much sense for them. I would be shocked if they would not jump at something like that. But then again, it comes to the question. I think I'm having a really hard time of trying to find where to value. I think I feel pretty comfortable of Dylan Carlson's value to the rest of the league right now. I don't know if I could really speak confidently about Nolan Gorman, mostly because of this Ken Rosenthal thing. When they say they are, and I think Nootbaar, everybody's getting really excited about all the StatCast numbers and how red it is and everything like that. And I'm here for that. That's great. The fact that Brendan Donovan is valued over Nolan Gorman is kind of crazy to me. I mean, I love the approach. I think the Gold Glove was kind of, silly, but he got it, and that's good for him. And it helps your resume or whatever. But he's like a 25-year-old slapper that gets on base. It just that kind of messed my brain up on where to put Nolan Gorman. Like I said, not only in the Cardinals, but like in baseball, or maybe that's just the A's and their weird player evaluation that they've been going through.
It is really hard to understand why someone would turn down, Carlson or Burleson or Gorman, and because they couldn't get Nootbaar or Donovan. But that said, like, Donovan and Nootbaar have just done it for a full year in the major league. So if you actually were prioritizing like major league level experience and results, I mean, Donovan, almost a 400 OBP in his rookie year, plus the versatility, like a team like Oakland is going to value that. But this all gets thrown out immediately when you take a look at what Oakland actually ended up getting for Sean Murphy, which is a deeply confusing thing at the end of the day. But if you just compare those pools of players together, like, I could see why a team would maybe prioritize Nootbaar and Donovan and Graceffo over a bunch of guys who made it to the majors but didn't necessarily perform at the majors like Nootbaar and Donovan did. Kyle, I'm actually interested to hear. So I think Ben and I were both actually kind of surprised that the Cardinals balked at the offer of Nootbaar, Donovan, and Graceffo for Sean Murphy. Like, that felt to me actually underwhelming. We were expecting it to be the Athletics wanted Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, something like that,
Tippity top guys. Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, never mind, this is done. And so we see those names, and obviously I just said how valuable those two guys were, but like, still a little surprised that was like the Cardinals are walking away from that. So I'm interested to hear from your perspective, like, what was your take on the Cardinals being the ones that turned down the Murphy trade around Nootbaar, assuming this is true, which is all we can do. We're a dumb little podcast. We have no actual real information, right? So we'll go off of the reports, right? So what was your take on that? Did you think that made sense to turn down, or would you have done the deal?
Real fast, just about the reporting. I do find it fascinating that now, after the A's make the trade and it kind of gets panned, then you get the article in the post, you get Rosenthal who comes out with it. Oh no, it was either Nootbaar and Graceffo or Donovan or Graceffo. That's who they wanted.
Right.
Like, that, to me, that seems like revisionist history. And the fact that we didn't have a report on that for a week after Derek Gould reported that it was Donovan and Nootbaar and Graceffo, I think that tells you like all that you need to know, that maybe there's some Oakland Athletics like cleanup happening here, trying to save face a little bit. That's I think that's what's happening now. My thought was, getting to the Willson Contreras signing, is it's It's a delicate matter, is what it is. I still think that they should have. I think that they should have held tight with Sean Murphy. I know it's tough to do, but I think they should have left the winter meetings without anyone. I think they should have balked at Contreras. I think they should have balked at Murphy. It wasn't like the catchers were flying off of the shelf at that point. It wasn't like Vasquez had already signed. His contract 330 with the Twins seems a little high to me, but it wasn't like Vasquez signed. It wasn't like Zunino signed, and Zunino 1-6 would have been a fine fallback if shit would have hit the fan. Pardon my language. But like they signed Willson Contreras. They got him on a good contract. The 5th year is whatever because of the DH. So I wasn't upset about it. I do think that it would have benefited them to just hold off. And I do think it serves them better in that circumstance to just eat the capital. And when I say prospect capital, I mean Gorman, I mean Donovan, I mean Yepes, I mean Burleson, the guys who have major league experience, but not really a full season. Enough major league experience to lose their rookie of the year eligibility, but not really, be a full-time player just yet. Like, I do think they should have just held off a little bit and watched how the market adjusted. And I felt that way at the time. And I was also like, this gets into the nuance, not just of baseball, but what I think some of the nuance that gets lost in fandom. Like, to me, signing Contreras was a smart move. It was a good move. He said all the right things at the press conference. It honestly was a lot like the Dexter Fowler press conference, all things considered.
That's a little scary, but yeah.
Yes, but this is the difference between Contreras and Fowler. Is Fowler had 2 good years, and they were buying high on him at a time when the market was stupid, and people that were of average talent were going for more than they deserved. They got Contreras on a deal relative. Contreras is still, and he has been for 5 years now at least, one of the 5 best offensive catchers in baseball. Like, there's differences there, but everybody got into what he was saying in the press conference, and that's just stuff that people say. Like, that's what they say. It was awesome to hear and get excited about. And in the moment, like, you're like, yeah, this is the right guy, and he probably is the right guy. I just wish that they wouldn't have gotten so aggressive when it didn't seem like anybody else was being aggressive. When everybody else was still trying to feel out the market. I am glad that they jumped the market instead of letting the market pass them by, though. So that's my thoughts on that. Which I'm sorry, just to lead into like the Sean Murphy of it all is I'm glad that they didn't trade Nootbaar and Donovan and Graceffo for Murphy. But at the same time, like, I think that it is kind of an underwhelming ask, relatively speaking, to what I thought it would be. And I just wonder how it would have worked out if they would have waited 1 week.
I think multiple things can be true. I think it can be true that the Willson Contreras signing is good and fine. And, he basically, like, whoever his PR guy is like, needs to be the PR guy for every player in baseball because they handled it perfectly. All those little stories about, like, when I saw Pujols hit 695, that's good, when I'm like, even if that's fake, which it probably is, like, it's fine. Like, that's great. Give me the fan service. I'm going to lap it up. We just had a mediocre catcher for 5 years because of fan service. So, like, like, give me that. I'm a Cardinal fan. I want that. But, like, it can also be true that, like, it might have been better to not sign Willson Contreras to this,
So the thing that troubles me, so I 100% agree with you. And I think, are the Cardinals better because of Willson Contreras? 100%. Inarguable. Catcher was so bad last year. We need something. And if the production's coming from offense rather than a whole package, I get it. It is a smart move. But I do think, like, I kind of put Sean Murphy, it's like Sean Murphy, Adley Rutschman, JT Realmuto, everybody else. Can you go find a 3 WAR or really he's like a 2.5 to maybe 3.5 WAR catcher or a position player out there on the market for a decent deal that is maybe a little more well-rounded? You can't find catchers, like guys like Sean Murphy can't be found. They can be traded for relatively easy with the Braves. But my thought was go after that unicorn. Like he could be a fixture in St. Louis. He could be somebody you throw a big extension at, and then you use your prospect lever in that, and then you pull your money lever, your I don't know, they're 87 million, 87.5 or whatever the spend could be on a Taijuan Walker deal or, whatever else you think the Cardinals might
No.
need. But you could get a plus catcher, and actually Sean Murphy, Alejandro Kirk, and Jansen all make this team significantly better, and you can get them 4 prospects. And then, like I said, pull that other lever. But I'll kind of go back on that. Like Sean Murphy I think he's kind
Yeah.
of on a bit of a rocket ship as far as his play and everything. So
It's so stupid that the freaking Braves have him now. Like they needed more cost-controlled young players. But
yeah.
anyway, on the Jansen part, I wanted to mention there was another report that I found very, very interesting. And who knows if this is true again, but let's assume for the sake of conversation that it is, that the Cardinals offered Ryan Helsley for Jansen and the Blue Jays turned it down.
Am I
Any
allowed to
takes
cuss?
on that?
Yes. Yeah. Say whatever you want.
That's fucking bullshit. That's my thought on that. I hate to be that way. I have 2 thoughts
Yeah.
about Helsley for Jansen. One, if the Cardinals are willing to make that move, they're fucking stupid. And 2,
Yeah.
it's inaccurate, and that's fucking stupid. Like I hate to be that way, but like to me, again, I think that this is probably like by the way, the reporter whose name I will butcher, I believe it's David or whatever, Davies.
Mhm.
I can't remember who reported that it was the Blue Jays turned down the offer Helsley for Jansen. I believe that what the information that person is getting is 100% correct. I like that is an honorable reporter that is worth listening to and following. I have a tremendous amount of respect. I just don't believe that the Blue Jays are telling the truth or wherever they're getting their source of information from is telling the truth. And again, just to double down on something, if the Cardinals are willing to make that trade, if they were the ones who went to the Blue Jays and said, hey, we've got Ryan Helsley, let's have that catcher there who's not really particularly good, but he's coming off of a career year, then and again, I am not one to turn my back on the front office. I understand the situation that they're in, but people need to be fired if that's what they're doing. Like it's just that simple. Like especially with the delicate situation that the Cardinals bullpen is in. Like they shouldn't be moving any of those guys without getting pitching in return because the starting situation that we talked about is dire to a degree, which does nothing for hoping that the Rule 5 pick out of the Mexican League can be the Luis Garcia of this next 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. Like that's where they're at. And if they're there making that, then they're stupid. And I mean that. That's not just a reactionary move. Like that is a very, very dumb thing to do. And whoever's pushing that lever, or pushing that button or pulling that lever, it needs to reevaluate where they're at. Of course, in my mind, I've rationalized how all of this information kind of got disseminated, what really happened, what didn't happen. Like I've kind of created a scenario that I could see playing out. But yeah, like that's my thoughts. If you want to give Helsley for Kirk, I get it. Like I don't know if it's necessarily the right thing, but I get it. I would understand it because of the years of control and the offensive ability. But yeah, that's it. That's where
or
I'm
like
at.
a Moreno or something.
Now Moreno is the name I would have been fine with, but Kirk scares me and Jansen scares me too. Like again, do they make the Cardinals better? Probably, but like, do I want Kirk as my catcher for the next 4 or 5 years? I don't know.
My only if we actually assume that everything is true end to end, then my best guess would mean that the Cardinals know something about Helsley and what he was dealing with at the end of last year that we don't know yet, and that they're trying to sell high on someone that they have deep concerns about the longevity of, and that scares me. So I like to believe your side of the story, Kyle, that they're like it's some gamesmanship coming from the Blue Jays. They're trying to establish that we'll trade one of these guys, but we won't take one of the best relievers in baseball for them. We need even more than that, right? They're trying to set a line, which would be my best guess at why they would create a rumor like that.
Yeah, and remember, like it's all about the semantics of it all. The Cardinals could have said, "Look, we'll give you Ryan Helsley. You give us Kevin Biggio and Danny Jansen." And obviously the Blue Jays would have been like, no, that's fucking stupid. And all they have to do is say, well, we told them that we wouldn't trade him Danny Jansen for Ryan Helsley.
Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's all about semantics and how things are presented.
And
Yeah.
really, like, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to move Jansen. It makes sense for their team. They want Moreno to take over catching, and they're trying to get a little more for their dollar on Jansen on the trade market because somebody is going to need a catcher at some point. Somebody who's maybe a little more patient than Mozeliak has been so far. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We should start talking. I got a bunch of I want to talk about the kids. I want to get into that conversation. We have Kyle on, so I want to machine gun some children at him.
Oh
No.
no.
No, look, we don't talk about children, but machine gun them at me away.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fire up. And actually, so you already said this guy, or you alluded to this name. And the reason I kind of wanted to talk to you about it is because the minute he got drafted in the Rule 5 draft, I'm following you on Twitter, and there is great video after great video. And this is you said Luis Garcia. He's got like, well, the beard is good. He's a big man. He throws the ball hard. The breaking ball looks solid. What are you thinking about this Wilking Rodriguez sign? Is it Wilking or Wilking? Do we know that? Yeah.
So I believe I'm pretty sure it's Wilking.
Wilking. Okay.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on this? I know you've dived into a little bit of video. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this guy. Was on your radar at all before that? Was he in the Mexican League or the Independent League or something? But what are your quick kind of 30,000-foot view of this guy? What are you seeing?
I had heard right before the All-Star break last year that the Cardinals were aggressive in some of the established markets. So some of like the Caribbean market leagues, the Dominican, Mexican, like they were searching for relief pitching everywhere that they could find it. And they were interested in him then. And there's some Yachty connections there too. And but he signed with the Yankees in July or August. I believe it was August of last year, a minor league deal with the Yankees. And before the Cardinals, like he signed the deal with the Yankees instead of signing a deal with the Cardinals, basically. So he's been on the Cardinals' radar for some time. He has not been on my radar. When I heard his name, and I don't have the same knowledge of every other minor league system that I used to have, but when I saw his name, I was like, I don't know this guy at all. Let me see what I can find. And the first clip that I saw was him acting like a maniac after striking somebody out, and I was like, let's fucking party. And then you watch and you see right away the 98 mile an hour, 100 mile an hour fastball, and with good arm action, relatively clean arm action for what he's dealing with. And then you saw the cutter, and you could tell that the cutter had just enough on it that it was that it was more than just a pitch to play off of the fastball. And then I started researching the cutter right away, and I was like, oh, wait, this is something new for him. Like,
okay.
It's like a couple years-ish new for him. That's kind of put him on everybody's radar. He's always had a big, what I thought was a curveball, but it's really just an incredibly lively changeup that gets in about 85 and it can be devastating. But at the same time now, and this is something I very rarely ever talked about. I mentioned it on Twitter at the time. Only my family, like my brothers, know this, and I've honestly never really talked about it. But over the years of writing about prospects, I've had people in organizations reach out to me. I've had people for Baseball America and Prospects Live and Baseball Prospectus and MLB.com and I and other teams and people who write about prospects for other teams, and like I've had these people reach out to me. First off, completely confused by the chaos that I bring to this world, and then also like, hey, thanks for gifting this. Like, we're able to watch stuff now that we otherwise wouldn't be able to see. How can we help you out or something like that? Like, and it's not the Cardinals. It's like I have a comfort level with the people who follow the Cardinals and who write about the Cardinals. Like, I have that comfort level, but it's from everywhere else. So almost immediately as I start tweeting, like, look at this freaking guy, and like just tweeting, I have people from those national outlets reaching out to me, and then I have a Hispanic gentleman who I talk to about the Caribbean leagues who reaches out to me. And then somebody who writes about Yankees prospects who's talking about what he was like in 2019 or not 2019, like 2017 or something like that, because that was the last time he was in affiliated baseball before 2021 when he signed. And like the consensus is that this is a legitimate signing. It's not just like we talk about Luis Garcia. My guess is that that's the role that the Cardinals want him to play. Now, his stuff isn't the same as Luis Garcia, so it's not a one for one. Like, the Cardinals understood that Luis Garcia had to throw his two seam more in order to be effective, and that's why he got DFA'd by the Nationals and why he found his way to the Cardinals. The Cardinals found that. Like, Rodriguez is a four seam cutter changeup pitcher. Has a little bit of work to do, a lot of work to do with the changeup, but he can get away with the fastball cutter. And they're going to rely on him if he makes it through camp. Now, there's no guarantee because, in my mind, the Mexican League is kind of like double A. I haven't seen enough of it to really say, but it's like polished double A, which isn't triple A. That's a whole different world. You might have like triple A talent, but it's like really polished double A. So there's going to be an adjustment there. But I really think that, like, when I think about maybe some of the other right-handers in the organization who might have a chance to break the major league, break spring training with the major league club, like, I think that even if he struggles in spring training, I think the Cardinals owe it to themselves, not only because they selected him and they have to have him on the 26-man roster, but I think they owe it to themselves to see what this beast can bring in season. And just, if he gets shelled, then back to the Yankees he goes for $100K or whatever it is now.
Well, yeah, and if you're comparing the Mexican League to Double A, or if it's somewhere in between there, I mean, if you're seeing 44 2/3 innings, a 2.01 ERA, and almost 15 Ks per nine, like, why not take a chance on him? Why not have him come down to spring? Like, I was just complaining about how the Cardinals don't have this guy, and I guess, like, to separate him from Luis Garcia, I think Luis Garcia, like, kind of saved that season a little bit, but he also was a ground ball guy. He wasn't going for the strikeouts to the degree in which it seems like Wilking is, or at least as many as almost, like I said, 15 per 9. So super exciting.
Well, to your point, like, one of the prospects in the Cardinals organization that I've been complaining about a little bit about not getting a fair shot really is Freddie Pacheco. Freddie Pacheco struck out in 2021. He struck out like 43% of the batters he faced.
Not bad.
He finished the year at AAA, and then last year he started the year at AA, and he never got a taste of the majors. And I swear that it would have done the Cardinals so well to have at least gotten a taste of what that would have looked like. Yeah, at least entering 2022. It doesn't mean that he deserved a huge look in September. It doesn't mean that he deserved to be on the playoff roster. But it just, like, those guys are rare, even if they have command issues, which it doesn't seem right like Rodriguez has. They owe it to themselves to see what they have out of somebody who's going to strike out 43% or 15 in every 9. Like, yeah, I'm with you. Give it to me.
Well, and the Cardinals might benefit from the fact that this was a Rule 5 selection, which does, to some degree, require you to give a longer look than you might give to other guys, or else you have to give them back to the Yankees. So hopefully, he gets a real shot, or at least, assuming he looks good in camp, they commit to it and they give him a real shot. I do think it's an interesting approach. It seems like the Cardinals are throwing a few more darts at high impact relievers than maybe we've seen in the past. Obviously, they need it, so hopefully, this works out.
Yeah, and the scouting staff deserves a ton of credit for, like, turning over every stone they can to find it. Again, Randy Flores gets a ton of credit, and he deserves every bit of it. But I am partial to what happens with that scouting staff because they do. And again, one of the things that we talked about before this was talking about the 2022 draft. Like, even in the 2022 draft, like, they found some arms late in the draft that have a chance to be fast risers. And they did the same thing in 2021 as well with guys who will be knocking on the major league door by the end of 2023. So, between the independent league righty from Logan Sawyer, who made a name through Pitching Ninja on Twitter, and Guillermo Zuniga, who they added to the 40-man after he became a minor league free agent through the Dodgers organization. Like, they have high octane, which they didn't really have other than Helsley and Hicks. And they have strikeout potential in some real wild cards from all over the freaking place. So hat tip to them as always.
Zuniga and Wilking are who I was thinking of when it feels like this is a slightly different approach to like dart throwing that we've seen from the Cardinals in recent years. And, you really only need like one more of these guys to click to pair with Hicks, Helsley, Gallegos. The core is there. It's just this like edge of the core, and of course dealing with any sort of potential injuries where everything quickly starts to fall apart, which we've seen. So we just need something to click outside of the core that we already have.
You just need one of these guys to be good for 60 games or so. Like that's kind of what the Rays do. They find a guy and then he throws for 60 innings and then you never really see Nick Anderson again, or whoever it might be.
The Rays just DFA'd JP Fireeisen, who just set the MLB record for it's kind of a fluky record, but it is what it is. He did not give up a single run in 2022, and it was like 24 and a third innings. So he has the record for like most innings in a single season without giving up a run, and they just DFA'd him. Now I think the expectation is that they're going to trade him. So anyway, point being, Rays find these guys out of nowhere. Yeah.
Again,
but it's what
that
the
fits their
Dodgers
model.
do.
Yeah.
The Dodgers do this too. I mean, the Dodgers just obviously they have the money to throw it at Craig Kimbrell just to see what happens. And when he fails, they have 30 other guys they can throw up there. But it's a more modern approach, which is just throw these high K per nine guys, see who clicks. Any reliever can be successful in a small sample size. So find what you can use and roll it out for a season and then rebuild the next season.
Yeah, Nate, you could be good for a short amount of time. Oh, sorry, Kyle.
No,
I had to get that.
No, please. So no, that like this is actually going to play perfectly off of what you're saying. I have a whole philosophy that I've kind of started to engineer, and it's I think you get into the offseason, and the offseason's long, and you start like, all right, we need outfield help, we need relief help, we need starting help, we need catcher. Let's go get that now. And the Cardinals are in a unique situation because the Central's trash. So they afford themselves a little bit of time to find stuff out. The like philosophy that I've been gathering in my mind is the Cardinals, the only time that they really faltered the last couple of years is because they didn't have the right starting pitching. They didn't have enough starting pitching, and they didn't have the right starting pitching. And sure, the bullpen's been an issue. Walking the bases loaded in 2021 was historical. But in my mind, I think that with incredible, with the reliever market being as volatile as it is, with just relievers in general, like not having success and it being completely random. To me, like in the offseason, if you need pitching, if you need starting pitching and relief pitching, go get your starting pitching. And then because even in the offseason, you're still going to have to pay a ton of money for relief pitching. So why not wait to see how those relief pitchers work out in season, and then at the trade deadline, go get relief pitching. Find the guys who are hot right then, who has the stuff working then. Like, I think that this is how you handle the offseason relief pitching. Bring in the randos. See what you get from that. And then in season, you adjust. And sure, you have to pay more in prospects, but at least it's not cash. Because for a team like the Cardinals, it's not the prospects that hamper them. It's the cash that hampers them. So that's like, I've been thinking about it a lot. And also, we've had a lot of talk lately. The big topic has been having two starters. You need two starters to have a playoff run. And that's true. But the reason the Cardinals lost to the Phillies was A, they weren't hitting, but B, they didn't have somebody other than Hicks and Gallegos and Helsley that they felt comfortable with. If they had Luis Garcia, it wouldn't have been Ryan Helsley in that spot. It would have been Luis Garcia. If they would have been willing to go to Flaherty earlier, it would have been him. If they would have gone to Matz, even then.
And that situation, my God, that situation still drives me a little bit crazy. But yeah, you see Helsley clearly doesn't have it. He goes through his minimum 3. And then who comes in is Andre Palante, who had a great 2022, but not the lever I'm pulling. And that's like, you got to be kidding me. Like he is.
Yeah.
That was such a, I mean, I know everyone listening and you two are hurting from that, but what a horrible little situation that was. And yeah, Luis Garcia, Wilking, Rodriguez, anyone with big velocity and stuff that can play in the zone, make those situations easier.
You know what we need is you talk about cash being the problem. I say build a wit, just open a couple more Arby's. Okay, you got so much Arby's money. You've got that roast beef cash, that beef money. Just open a few more Arby's. Get us a few more high. Yeah. He's got the beef. Let me see the cash. I only recently learned that a lot of Build-A-Wit's money comes from Arby's, so I was like, I gotta get a
Hey, that
Arby's.
shit's
Yeah.
recession proof, baby. Everybody
Yeah,
wants roast beef all the
we got
time.
we got the cheddar, the beef and cheddar. Just gotta sell a few more beef and cheddars, and maybe
Yeah.
we can, sign a Carlos Rodon. Uh,
Yeah.
Okay. I want to start. I said I was going to machine gun some kids at you, and we knew you were coming on today, and I kind of handpicked some kids, and I'm just going to throw them at you, and I'm kind of curious
Yeah,
what
you
you
did.
think. Somebody who I'm a little bit excited about is Jimmy Crooks. He was the fourth round pick last year. Big boy. He played 23 games, 864 OPS. It looks like he's got a decent arm. It looks like he's got a decent approach. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts is. This like somebody who is real, or was this just like 23 games and fourth round pick catcher and he's just kind of doing his thing?
No, he's real. He's a top 15 prospect in the organization for me. And it's not because of his success. It's just from talking to people from Oklahoma. The one thing that I'll tell you that I've come to really realize over the last couple of years, if a player at a big college program has a following, like an independent following, then they're probably a pretty good player. And it's not just about their personality, it's about the type of player they are. And I'll tell you, Jimmy Crooks is beloved in a tough market that is Oklahoma. And that's because he's a great defensive catcher with some interesting offensive profiles. Now, he's too advanced to be at Palm Beach, so you can't buy too much into what's going on at low A offensively. But what I know from his 2022 season before he was drafted is that it just never happened to him all at once. He had a lot of success offensively, but he was struggling defensively. And then when he started putting it together defensively, he was struggling offensively. And he didn't really have like a great all-around showing. He had some really flashy moments towards the end of the year. I'll tell you what I watched out of both Jimmy Crooks and another prospect that either you're going to machine gun at me or the people in your audience seems to be familiar with, Leonardo Bernal, the two catchers at Palm Beach at the end of the year that matter, is that they're both legitimate, real prospects. That doesn't mean that both will make it to the majors, but I'm going to tell you right now that if you ask me, I would tell you that they are major league talents that just need to unlock a few things here and there. Now, Jimmy Crooks, I'm telling you, like, Jimmy Crooks made me a believer of him. When the Cardinals drafted him, in my mind, I thought, he's kind of like Jeremy Martinez, which was a USC catcher that the Cardinals drafted in like the 4th or 6th round, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And I thought, Jeremy Martinez was a hit first, but with good defensive tools that you might be able to make something out of. OBP guy. And like, I never bought into Jeremy Martinez. I didn't like Jeremy Martinez. He wasn't ever going to be more than just like a double-A catcher with maybe a little bit of AAA. And the minute I saw Jimmy Crooks, I was like, no, this reminds me of, and this isn't going to make fans happy, but it reminded me of when I saw Andrew Kisner for the first time at Johnson City, and I was like, oh no, like there's professional qualities here. It's just a matter of getting it all out. Right. And that's how I feel about Jimmy Crooks. I just think Jimmy Crooks has a higher upside than Kisner had back then.
Also, Jimmy Crooks, I mean, S tier name.
Yeah.
Andrew Kisner, like, I mean, people are still saying it wrong. I mean, Jimmy Crooks, like, why would Kisner, it's in the wrong place from how you say it. There's a lot of work to be done on his name.
The Post-Dispatch headline about Crooks catching people stealing on him, it's it writes itself.
It's obvious. I mean, what a perfect baseball name.
And I'm super excited to see that because you look at his lines from college, and I think kind of what you're saying. There's not too much to be really excited about, but they drafted him fairly high, especially for a catcher from a college, and then he hits pro ball and hits over 850 immediately, which I kind of just expect, somebody to hit pro ball right out of he played a college year last year, and to either be exhausted or holy shit, I'm in major league or I'm in professional baseball. This is crazy, but he came out storming.
So, between him and the 5th rounder, and this isn't just these two, but like the 5th rounder out of West Virginia, the center fielder Victor Scott II, both of those guys are interesting because
great name too.
Like those guys are almost perfectly engineered for what Russ Steinhorn teaches. That's Russ Steinhorn, who is the minor league hitting coordinator for the Cardinals, who is always Jeff Albert's, like what I found out in period piece is a lieutenant, not a lieutenant, like I've been saying my whole life. But Russ Steinhorn was go
Yeah,
on.
I think you can say lieutenant if you want to sound cooler than you actually are. But listen, this is America, all right? We're in the Midwest. We say lieutenant. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but both Scott and Crooks, why they are two different hitters with two different approaches, they both have a similar swing and kind of a batter's eye, for lack of a better term, because I'm a 60-year-old coach of a teenagers, apparently. Um, they both have that type
Play
of
the
like,
game the right way, boy.
yeah, that's right. They play that game. They hustle. I didn't see them
Yeah.
dog it down first on that grounder to the first baseman. They're going to beat that out. But no, like they both are a good base foundation mold for what the Cardinals have already gotten a ton of success out of in the minors, as we talk about Brendan Donovan. And, sure, Gorman has his issues and Yepes has had some issues, but like Burleson, those guys have been able to get the most out of themselves. And because of they're all hard workers who are dedicated to their craft, but also because of the little ways that Russ Steinhorn and his guys, his people, the hitting coaches have been able to engineer them while they're working on engineering themselves.
Yeah. Moving down the list, the next person I want to talk about Chandler Redmond, because I feel like he wasn't really on my radar at all until this year. Kind of had a bit of a power surge. His neck looks like it's 24 inches thick. He's a big man, and I just love the big boys. He's a
you
first
see a little
baseman.
bit of yourself in it. I get it.
He's a first baseman. He was in AAA all year. He popped 21 home runs. Is this kind of like a guy? He's 25 years old, which is obviously the thing that isn't so great about his prospect status. But is this a guy who's kind of like really finding how to use his power in games a little later, or is this guy? Did he have a springy ball? I don't know. What are your thoughts on Chandler Redmond, which is a mouthful of a name?
Chandler Redmond was a 32nd round pick in 2019, and he was out of Gardner-Webb, and he was one of those guys who right away I was like, I love this guy. I love him. And he's been on the prospect ranking ever since they drafted him almost. He's been at the back. But like he's a fascinating study. He's one of these guys, his age, it sucks that he's as old as he is, and he's probably hurt because of the loss to the 2020 minor league season. So he's got a lot of things working against him from like a time-keeping standpoint, I guess. But he's a lefty whose power alley is left center field and on a line drive and hit incredibly hard a lot. And he was a second baseman / third baseman / first baseman, but a lot of second basemen at Gardner-Webb. And honestly, in the minor leagues, he's what I've observed, and I don't know if the minor league defensive metrics would say this, but he's best at second base. And for being a big boy, he's like 6'2", 260 pounds.
He's listed at 231. So maybe, I don't know if this is being kind to him or not, but he looks bigger than that in his picture.
He's bigger than that. He's bigger than that. Maybe we'll say 240 just to to be polite to the Redmond family, who I love with all my heart. But he has real power. And in 2019, what we were asking is, we want to see Chandler Redmond adapt to left-handed hitting, because he really struggled against left-handed hitting in the minors, but not in college. So what we saw at the beginning of 2021 was a kid who had kind of reverted back to not hitting lefties. Well, to start 2022, he was hitting lefties, but he wasn't slugging the ball against righties. He was also, getting into the stuff like his wife was pregnant. It was a tough pregnancy, and they were working through it. She had the baby, and he went nuts. He found his power, went crazy. So, Redmond's interesting to me. I think he's one of these guys that we all kind of undervalue, because he's a left-handed bat who can do a lot of damage. And my guess, my hope, and the Cardinals have kind of a logjam. I would imagine that there's a real chance that he starts the year back at AA. I would not like that. I would like for him to get at bats over Luken Baker, because he's a left-handed. But I think that from a DH standpoint, if he can find more of that power, which he has, especially because he can go all fields with that power against righties, then you're talking about maybe a foil to what Moises Gomez is against lefties. But now with that, like Moises Gomez hits the ball harder than anyone, and it's wild to watch him hit because he'll if you throw him four the same pitches in reverse order, he'll swing and miss them and swing and miss at them in orders you don't understand, and hit them over the fence in order you don't understand. Like nothing about him makes sense. He just swings and sometimes he hits the ball. I think Redmond's a little bit more advanced than that, but with similar type power potential. He just, back, I guess this gives me a chance to call it my own hypocrisy. Back at the end of 2021, I was like, I just want to see him hit against lefties. If he hit against lefties, he has a chance of making it to the majors. And now I'm like, I don't give a shit if this left-handed hitter hits against lefties at all. Let's just watch him pummel righties and see if he can get to the majors doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I think we saw it to some degree last year with how the Cardinals utilized Pujols, which is obviously a ceiling that we're not expecting out of anyone, but it showcases the Cardinals' willingness to, use that matchup data, commit a guy to one half of a platoon that maybe we didn't really see as much with Schilt, and especially with Matheny, we didn't really see that as much. So if you've got if we have two sides to a platoon in the DH, I think it absolutely can work. I also, you mentioned it briefly, but I think it's always interesting. Like, we tend to try to disregard a lot of the narrative because it's usually overblown and stupid. But I think those things where it's like their real life is a struggle, I think that doesn't get accounted for enough in sports. Like, we overvalue or over index towards like, this guy just wanted it more than the other guy, which is almost always bullshit. But when you find out someone is like dealing with a real life problem outside of baseball, like that actually matters and probably actually is impacting someone's ability to focus on field, because we're all humans and that's how just humanity works.
Yeah.
And so that is always interesting when you hear about someone struggling during a time when their real life was really a hardship, and then those things resolve themselves and they suddenly click. Like, that is the type of narrative that I think is actually valuable to include in the evaluation of someone. And hopefully everything is going well for the Redmond family at this point, and he can focus just solely on
Hey,
baseball.
he's hitting dongs now, so it seems like everything's good now.
Yeah.
Another guy I want to throw at you. When I was kind of doing my research before this episode, I kind of got a little prospect crush on this guy just looking at his line and his production in 2022. Mike Antico, 8th round pick in 21. He stole 67 bases across 2 levels this year. He walked 71 times. That might be all he can do. Maybe play a little defense, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on him.
He's one of these guys I find myself incredibly annoyed by, honestly. Like, so it's because when you watch him, you're like, I don't know how this guy's good, but he's good, and he's a legitimate prospect, and he's also become a prospect with some cachet. Talking to some of the national people, like he's more than just like. So I tend to revert back to like other prospects, and a couple years back, the Cardinals had a guy named Charlie Tilson. And
Yes.
like on MLB.com, Charlie Tilson was like a top 10 prospect for the Cardinals, and I just never bought into it. And then he got hurt, and then he got traded to he got traded to the White Sox for Zach Duke.
Yes.
And never really became anything, had a major league debut. And I think Antico's a little bit like that, but Antico has more pop than Tilson had. And obviously he was a college draft pick and an old college draft pick as opposed to a prep kid like Tilson was. So there's a little bit of difference there. And even though his swing makes no sense to me, he creates power with it. The thing about Mike Antico is you steal 67 bases and you still don't lead the minor leagues, just to give people kind of an idea of like the proportion there. But also watching him out in the outfield makes no sense either, because you would think somebody as fast as he is with the instincts that he has would be a better defensive center fielder, and he just isn't. He just isn't. It's weird. Yeah. He's timid is what it is. He's timid against the wall. He's timid into the gaps. He's pretty amazing coming in, honestly. But there's a timid nature to his game out in the outfield that concerns me that I'm sure he could work through. But I'm also fortunate that I watch every minor league game, and I literally watch like Justin Turner run through a wall on August 13th of 2019 and get a concussion, and end his season, and then kind of derail his whole
Right.
prospect trajectory. And Connor Capel would do stuff like that, and Scott Hurst does it all the time. And he just Dylan Carlson did it. Like, yeah. So to watch Antico go into the gaps and like be terrified and go against the wall and misplay balls against the wall, it's a concern to me that I think he can get over. But I do think there's more to the bat, and he has become, honestly, he's become a popular prospect to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he hit 14 home runs, like I said, 67 bases, and walked like 11% of the time. And looks like he struggled a little bit on his leap up to AA, but really not that bad. Yeah, it's a guy that wasn't out on my radar at all. And then I saw those numbers and got excited. Okay, we're running a little bit long, so I want to throw. Well, Kyle, I guess I want to know who you want to talk about. We could talk about Moises Gomez. And my question is he actually organizational depth, or is he just a lunatic that hits the ball hard? Or should we talk about even Ivan Herrera? And my question there is he irrelevant still? So I'm curious if you have interesting thoughts on one of those, and we can move on after that.
I think I'll answer both because I can get through Gomez pretty quick. I think Gomez is a lot like Jose Adolis Garcia. I think that if everything goes right, then what Jose Adolis Garcia has become for Texas with less defensive prowess because he doesn't have the athleticism that Adolis Garcia has.
Garcia is a pretty good defensive player. Yeah.
He's become quite a valuable piece for the Rangers,
Exactly. Like, I don't think we knew Garcia was going to be, because of his arm was elite, and because he had athleticism and he was built like a brick shithouse.
He famously walked from home base to first base on his hands in a showcase. So I know, Ben, you can do that too, but like it's it's pretty impressive.
So I think that like ultimately that's his ceiling. Now it's just about how the league adjusts to him, because some of these guys with big power end up becoming JD Martinez because teams get a little, like, especially because of the random nature. And I'm telling you, it's more random than the stats lead on about his power. I watched him swing wildly over a changeup from somebody, the same person, and then also hit that same changeup in that same location for a home run. Like,
yeah.
There's such randomness that he's the kind of guy who could end up peaking a little bit more, one of those hard hitters that could peak a little bit more once they make it to the majors. So that's fascinating to me. That becomes the fascinating aspect. I do think that if everything goes right, you're talking about a Garcia-type offensive production without that defensive prowess. He does have an amazing arm, but it's not, the rest of it's kind of clunky.
Yeah. Are you anticipating Gomez being a factor in 2023 for the Cardinals?
Yeah. I think him and Yepes will go. Everything's due to change. We're still 2 months away, 3 months away. But I think if, as currently constructed right now, he and Yepes will be in a competition for a lot of those DH and corner outfield, spare corner outfield at bats, and whoever looks like they can do the most for the lineup is going to win that job out of spring training. And then
it's hard to ignore after setting the minor league record for home runs, just named today co-minor league player of the year for the Cardinals alongside Jordan Walker, which is we all know about Jordan Walker, but it's actually a credit to Gomez to be identified alongside Walker, who just had a season that's probably going to propel him to top prospect in baseball status in the next couple months. But anyway, so Ivan Herrera, we've been talking a lot about him on the show. Where do you see him going into 2023? I mean, last you and I, the three of us were together and we spoke about Ivan. It was right around his call up and then his send back to AAA. What have you been hearing about Ivan?
I'll give you my own opinion, not about like what I'm hearing. My thought about Herrera is, as long as he's in the organization, he factors into their plans. If he finds his way out of the organization, then it's a whole different story. Obviously, that book will have written itself. But it's not like we all, and the Cardinals do, and Contreras feels this way. But I don't think we all feel comfortable with the Willson Contreras catching 140 games next year.
No.
And
right.
I don't mind Kisner as a backup. I think Kisner is going to be a fine backup. But that makes Kisner expendable. It makes Herrera expendable. It makes the depth expendable. Bernal and Crooks kind of adjust this whole situation as well as Aaron Antonini and Nick Raposo and some of the other guys, Pedro Pajes at AAA. Like, I think what ends up happening with Ivan Herrera is because he is still like a potentially elite athletic catcher with tons of skill and tons of potential and a really, really high ceiling, is there isn't an urgency to really have what does it mean for Ivan Herrera just yet. And I think that that's good because, again, it's a player who missed all of 2020 as a 19-year-old, and then was at AA and held his own as a 20-year-old in AA, held his own as a 21-year-old in AAA. And now that he's going to be 2022, he's going to be 22 in 2023. Like, there isn't an urgency. Catchers take yeah, right. Catchers take
Just
the
broke my
longest
brain a
amount of
little
time.
bit.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. You're stumbling over 22 and 23. Broke my brain a little bit. So, I guess like from our perspective, and Ben and I talked about this last week. I think like truly what I would love, and no disrespect, Kisner has served a purpose, but I would love to see a Contreras Herrera combo in 2023, and just let's find out. Let's find out, like, what does Herrera need? Is he the next step as far as the backup, likely platoon thing that's going to go on with Contreras? Like, let's find out. Kisner, we saw enough. I think we know what is there. And frankly, what we know is that he's not a starter, right? And if Contreras is going to play 100 games at catcher or whatever, maybe more, probably more, but still, like, the Cardinals need someone who's going to provide a little bit more than what Kisner provides. And we need to find out if it's Herrera. And if not, are we waiting for Crooks or one of the other guys that you mentioned, or should they go and get um, we've been talking about like Narvaez or any of these other sort of like veteran, the way the Cardinals used to handle the backup catcher role with that, like, you know,
Inger
30-year-old
Diaz.
catcher.
Yeah.
Jason LaRue, any of these guys that like seemingly are the chillest dudes on the planet because they make like $5 million a year, mostly just to hang out, which is really what we're all hoping for. I want to remind everyone we have a $1.5 million tier on our Patreon. If you are out there and you just want to let us coast, check it out. But anyway, yeah, I think like, yeah. So sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say I'll spend the rest of my night thinking about Einer Diaz now. That made my entire evening, probably my week. I think this is one of those things where we start talking about like plans in the off season. When we know that more than likely Willson Contreras and Andrew Kisner aren't going to make it through the entire year as the 1 and 2. Like, there'll be injuries, there'll be stint or IL stints. Like, he'll get his time at the major league level if he's still in the organization. And like, it's all very, very fluid. I just think that when you're talking about a 22-year-old who missed an entire year of minor league development, I think that 2023 can be a bit of a wash. I don't think it hurts him to go back to and say that Kisner and Contreras are healthy all next year. I don't think it hurts them or him, the Cardinals, or anybody for him to either put himself in a position where it's like, we can't keep him down anymore. He's just too good. Even if it turns out like a Gorman situation, Gorman put himself in a situation where it was like, he's just too good right now. We have to figure out what he is. And then you might have to send him back down later on in the year because he's just overmatched or whatever the league's adjusted to him. I just don't think that like you have to deal in finites in the offseason with somebody who's a 22-year-old catcher when it takes catchers so much longer to develop. And then with the 2020 of it all.
Yeah, I think it's very easy for us as fans to, we look around the league and you look at your Adleys and you look at your Julio Rodriguez's and your Acuñas and all these guys that are like, likely future Hall of Fame level players that seemingly come into the league. at some degree of eliteness, and we look at our players and go, well, he's 22. Why isn't he ready for that? When in reality, most players don't actually hit big league competency until 25 or 26 at the earliest. And usually it's more like 27, 28, 29, especially in the catcher position. And the Cardinals have had a lot of success on capitalizing on guys who don't hit that success until those late 20s. I definitely think of like maybe Redmond is one of those guys who will be seen as old, but it doesn't really matter what age you are if you're contributing at the big league level. Yeah, I think that backup catcher role or platoon catcher role or something is going to be one of the bigger storylines that we sort of follow through in 2023. I think we could there's so many more people that we could keep talking about, but we've been going for over an hour already. So we're going to move into some other stuff that we want to talk about, assuming you still have time for us, Kyle.
Let's go. Here,
always...
real fast.
Yep.
Oh, no. So I got this Jim Beam advent calendar. Do you guys want to do it? You guys want to do it with me?
Yeah.
It's 12 days
this is exactly what we want to be doing right now.
So if we're going to keep going, we're going to have to do the advent calendar. So this was yesterday. This was the regular Jim Beam. And it says on the second day, something with a little extra. And that is Jim Beam Black.
And
oh my God.
Describe this for the listener. Kyle has what looks like it's a present the shape of a house. And when you open it up, there seems to be 12 bottles of Jim Beam. I didn't even know that there were 12 varietals of Jim Beam. Good for you, sir. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I think there's only like 4 varieties, but they just keep recycling them over and over again.
Okay.
Are you guys anxious to find out what the flavors of Jim Beam are?
I am, yes.
I can think of nothing I want to hear more than this right now.
So you have Jim Beam, and then Jim Beam Black, and then Jim Beam Apple, and then Jim Beam Honey, and now I feel like Bubblegum Shrimp, and then Jim Beam Peach, and then Jim Beam Vanilla, and then Red Stag by Beam, and then Jim Beam Orange.
Okay.
Wow.
Jim Beam Orange sounds like an abomination. That cannot be good.
Like a third of those sounded horrible. But
tis the season.
Is the season. Yeah, I like, if you just take away all the adjectives, all the qualifiers, and you just open it up and go, well, look like behind this door, there's a little more Jim Beam. I think, you're in a good spot.
You can find out just how pathetic I am when I phrase it that way.
No, it's wonderful. All right, so we've got some more stuff to talk about. Of course we do. We could go all night, but we're going to move forward a little bit. But before we do, let's do the part where we talk about how people can support the different initiatives that we're doing. And Kyle, I know you're a modest person, but you've got your own stuff that you're doing. If someone wants to take this show, they listen to it and they say, how do I dump these two and find more Kyle Reis? You have your own initiatives. Like, what would you recommend someone dig into right now if they want to find more of the work that you're doing?
I have a Patreon tier for $1.5 million.
Hey, get out! That's our shtick. All right.
No, look. We do Prospects After Dark via the Birds on the Black Twitter page. Our Twitter. Let me start over because I can't even get that right. The Birds on the Black YouTube page. On Wednesday nights at 7 Central Time. We're gonna it was something we used to do all the time, and then I stopped doing it because it takes an incredible amount of energy, and also I have a real job, so getting hammered on a Wednesday night is not ideal. And it ends up happening where even if I try to proportion out the booze, I end up getting hammered. But what I've done is I've stopped using booze and I drink a couple beers and I'm fine now. So we found the loophole around it. So check out either Twitter Live, my Twitter Live page, my Twitter page, KYLER416, and then there'll be a live thing at 7, or go to the Birds on the Black YouTube to their live section. And at 7 o'clock, 7:15 usually on Wednesdays, we're going to try to stay regular with Prospects After Dark. And that is, it's chaos is what it is. There's no telling. People ask questions. They're the ones who dictate what we do. And that's we'll talk about anything anybody wants to talk about. We'll talk about as long as it's in a respectful and a respectful manner to anybody except me. Like, be as disrespectful for me as you'd like. Just remember, everybody else is a human. I don't know exactly what I am. So
I
there's
mean,
that.
Birds on the Black is premium content, and I'm really excited that you're doing Prospects After Dark again. And I like to think that and another way of portion control is advent calendars. So I'm thinking like you need to stock up on these Jim Beam advent
I had
calendars.
6 advent calendars, man.
Yeah, it'll be middle of June, and you're like, all right, here I am into day 4 of my 13th advent calendar of the month. I can't recommend Birds on the Black and the work Kyle's doing enough. Obviously, one of the best Twitter follows, and we have you on the show for a reason. The depth of knowledge that you bring to it is incredible. Makes we try to supplement our lack of really anything by having people like you on the show. So but hey, for whatever reason, you do truly enjoy the show and
tell them
want
it's
to.
good, Nate. Jesus Christ, come on now.
They know what they're getting into. They're an hour and 15 minutes into this at this point. So, but we remind everybody that we are on Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We have a private Discord server. It's fantastic. We've got wonderful people in there connecting over the Cardinals, ignoring all the noise that is other social media at patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Be a part of it. It's great. And consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Ben, if people want to engage with us online, where else can they find us?
Yeah, well, follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can follow us on Instagram, Talking About Birds. You can email us questions, concerns, thoughts, flirtations to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com.
We don't get a lot of flirtations. I have to say,
honestly, it kind of hurts my feelings. Hit on us harder, internet people. And Nate just got a clean bill of health on his cat, so we're taking in cat names, Lady Cardinals cat names. Send them into that email.
That's a you can't just smooth right past that. That's a big update, though. I've been talking about this cat on this podcast for a while, and so Kyle, we have brought in a stray cat.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's been living with us for about a month now, and we finally got it into the local cat clinic, who were wonderful. And we found out it's a girl, thought it was a boy. And we'd been soliciting names for the cat, and it doesn't really matter, gender neutral or whatever. But we're listening. We're still listening to names. I will say, wild card. We're also letting my 5-year-old daughter be a part of the naming.
Wow.
So it might be something not at all Cardinal
related. She has to submit it to the email at least.
It's going in front of the bird scored. But she's totally healthy. She's hiding behind the couch, like 4 feet to my left right now.
Good girl.
So
what about you? Interrupted my plugs, Nate. We're also on Spotify. Okay, I'm done.
What about Gussie? I know Gussie. Like, could that be
like Gussie Bush?
Yeah.
There you go.
Interesting. All right, I'll throw it on the list. Thanks,
Kyle.
Hates it, Kyle. Nate hates it. I could tell by his face. He was like, "That's."
Well, I'm not committing to anything. All right,
wow.
I'm just we'll put it in front of the committee, which is my 5-year-old daughter and our Discord patrons. So I will say she has a much higher vote than the Discord does, but everyone's a part of this. So
it's messed up.
All right, we've got a few more things we want to talk about, and then of course we're going to play a game with Kyle before we break for the evening. So
let me drill through the league news really quick. There's not too much to talk about, so I'm just going to go fast through this. Xander Bogaerts somehow signs a 11-year, $280 million contract since last time we talked.
I cannot believe this deal.
Is the new market inefficiency just extending contracts until you're not working there anymore? I don't understand the strategy. But I mean, is there a better lineup in baseball right now? It's the top 5 at the very least. I can't think of anyone who's competing with that really.
My favorite part about this is that they asked the GM, what's with all the money? And they said, well, our owner's a billionaire, so that helps basically. And like, you know what? Fucking finally, yes, exactly. You've got billionaire owners. Spend your money. It's so funny how much things have switched. Where like in the '90s and early 2000s, it was like, man, these stupid teams that are spending all this money, like that's like how bad is it for baseball? And now we actually realize what it means to be a billionaire. And it's like, yes, you can afford anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, go and get Xander Bogaerts. Is it a bad deal? Maybe. I mean, the AAV is, I guess, okay, but the 11 years seems like a lot for a middle infielder, but he's good,
But
and
man,
they'll probably,
before 2022, I was like, Cardinals could probably get him for like, I don't know, 6 years, 150, something like that. And then he just slam dunks
well, it
all over that.
makes me think Dansby's gonna get like 10 years, like 250 million or something like that. Yeah. I
What a
mean,
nightmare that will be.
He'll go to the
yeah,
Cubs, and they're going to overpay for him. All right, moving down the list. Also, since last time
yeah,
we talked, Brandon Nimmo. Speak of overpays, got 8 years, $162 million. Again, being a billionaire must be really, really nice. I think this deal makes less sense to me just because I don't
yeah.
think Brandon Nimmo is going to age very well. But he'll keep, taking his walks and sprinting to first base for the next 8 years. So he's got that. But man, 8 years, 162 to the Mets, totally nuts to me.
Yeah, the Bogarts deal I think is better than this one. At least Bogarts has that like ceiling, like you could argue Bogarts might still have some better years than he's ever had,
Yeah.
and like, he slots into that lineup really well. Um Super surprised at this deal. Nimmo, it's not going to take much for him to suddenly become league average. I mean, he's a good player, and I know you were lobbying for a while for the Cardinals to possibly sign Nimmo, but we were talking
Not
what,
for
like three,
this. Yeah.
yeah, like like 470 maybe, something in that range, and instead he gets 860. I mean, good for him, of course.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
go out, get paid. But yeah,
Yeah.
quite the surprise.
Yeah,
Uh,
best case scenario with Nemo, he ends up being Michael Brantley over the next 8 years. Like that's the
Right?
best
Like,
case scenario.
I mean, maybe his OBP skills maintain as he ages. He's got a good eye, but
I just don't buy the power. I don't think the power, like, I think he had 1 year of power, and I think it's going to go back down, and
yeah,
we'll see.
he's marching towards an overpaid defensive specialist, and like
But he's
that's
not
not,
even that great of a defender.
no, not after, like, yeah,
All right.
it's a weird deal.
Kodai Senga also signs with the Mets because who doesn't sign with the Mets? 5 years, $75 million. Actually, probably a good deal. I'm excited to see this
Yeah.
guy pitch, and a deal that's not completely astronomical. So I guess good for the Mets there. Moving down the list, we got Shamanai, who I thought would be an interesting
Can I answer that one?
target for the Cardinals. He and the Giants agreed to 2-year, 25. What did you say? Did I
I,
did I
Sorry,
mispronounce it?
I think I'm on. I think I've got a. I think no, I've got a really bad delay. I think something's happening, but
Oh,
I want to. I
okay.
want to say that I'm a huge Senga
oh yeah.
fan, and I've been a huge Senga fan since 2017. And I remember that because every day for months I would tweet at Major League Baseball and tell them that they needed to allow Luis Roberts free agency. And then every once in a while I'd say you need to do it with Kodai Senga too. And I the contract's tough because he gets the opt out after 2023. But everybody's been focused on Quintana, and Cardinals missing out on that. I think Senga is the one that they're going to end up missing out on.
So we breeze past it, but Kyle, that I actually felt kind of the same. Like, I thought of all of this like soup of middle contract starting pitching that's happening right now, from your Quintanas to your Bassett's to your Tyons. I thought Senga is like the one that was most appealing to me. If the Cardinals were going to enter into this sort of mid-tier market of pitchers, that Senga was the one that will likely return like the most value from this. But he's also the most unknown, and the Cardinals don't typically go into the unknown unless it's relievers, which we have a great relationship
Yeah.
apparently with that team, or with the Asian groups. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think it's a good deal for the Mets. And worst case scenario, it's what is it, 15 a year? Like that means nothing to the
Yeah.
Mets.
Oh, yeah.
So like worst case scenario, I guess for them, worst case scenario is he opts out. But like, if he just ends up being a bullpen arm at 15, like you deal with that,
Yeah,
we'll
Mets
see.
will be fine. All right.
Yeah.
Again, maybe I said this already. Sean Manaea, Giants, 2 years, $25 million. Probably a good deal. We'll see, especially in that ballpark.
That's what it's so Tyon or Walker gets 76 million, and then this guy gets 25. And I'm like, I don't
I would
get it.
rather pay Walker than Manaea, but at that deal, I mean, that's just a good deal though. Like 2 years, 25
Yeah.
for a guy that can throw 160 plus innings is, I would take that.
Yeah.
Moving down the line, Chris Bassett, 3-year with the Blue Jays for $63 million. That's also again, I think that one shocks me a little bit more. The fact that Walker got paid more than Bassett. I think Bassett's had a little better track record, although maybe a little more health issue. No, they've both had health issues. Now that I say that out loud.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't get it. Good deal for the Blue Jays. And then the final thing I have here on my list, shout out to TJ House, former Blue Jays reliever who came out as gay, and he's engaged to be married, and we support that shit. So good for you, TJ House. Sorry you had to wait till you retired, but good for you.
Yeah, that guy, he had a hell of a minor league or a hell of a major league, minor league journey, and he's a baseball rat too. Yeah, awesome, just an awesome man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully it gets to the point where they don't have to wait till they get out of the league, but still, I know that's a challenging thing in athletics right now. So good for him. And I hope him and his partner have a, wonderful life. So, all right. So we're nearing the end of the episode. But Kyle, normally this is just me and Ben, and I'm just like grilling him or getting him with stupid games, but I've got the both of you. So, we're going to return to a game that I am excited to do again. Kyle, I know you are a bit of or not even a bit of, you're a prospect expert. You're really keyed in on the minor leagues. You're aware of all the different leagues. And one of the most fun and goofy parts about the non MLB teams is that they can kind of call themselves whatever they want, right? There's all sorts of silly and goofy team names. Kyle just put his head in his hands.
This long I'm gonna kill you, Nate. I know we know exactly what you're getting at. Yeah.
There's all sorts of goofy and silly names for teams all throughout the minors.
Yeah.
And so we're playing a little game that I call
I'm gonna kill you. Say it.
God, I hate you so much.
The name of the game is AAA or So here's
wow.
So here's how the game works. I've got a list of team names in front of me. Some of them are real team names that come from all levels of professional baseball.
Oh, come
on. That includes Frontier League, every league of professional baseball. And then some of the names are names that I made up. Your
I hate
job.
You either way. You make them up, be proud of it. I don't care. I have no respect. I've lost it.
I didn't know I had respect to lose, so I'll take it. I'll take it that I made it this far.
There you go.
So I've got a list of team names.
I've got a Jim B. Madman calendar. I'm not one to be doling out respect or receiving it anyways.
So we're gonna go back and forth. I'm gonna say a team name, and then you tell me whether it is a real baseball team or it's a name that I made up.
Yeah.
If you get it correct, you're gonna hear this lovely sound. It's like someone hitting a home run and the crowd going crazy. Or if you get it wrong, you're gonna hear that. All right. And we're gonna go back and forth. Whoever gets the most accurate, the most correct will win. So Kyle, you are our guest, so you will go first. So our first name here is the Gastonia Honey Hunters.
I hate you. God, I hate you so much.
Is that a real team name, or is that one that I made up? Is that
I don't think
AAA
Gastonia is even a real place. How about that? I don't think anyone's ever hunted honey in their lives.
Gastonia Honey Hunters. What's that? You said fake?
Wow.
That is a real team name.
Gastonia.
So the Gastonia. Yep. All right. Ben.
What?
Real fast. Honey is like, it's a playground like thing, right? Like it's a, what do they call it? A bumblebee nickname because it's what it's like floats around, but it stings. It's like something that a third grader would say. You're a honey hunter. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not a great name. Like you imagine being like, hey, we're gonna go down and see the honey hunters tonight. Like what is that even? You'd be like, nah, I'm good.
Like something a serial killer would say.
Yeah, I don't want to be a part of that.
Honey hunter.
All right. Ben.
Yeah.
The Montgomery Fish.
Montgomery. Well, no, I know there's a Montgomery team. I own their shirt. It's the Montgomery Biscuits. I can't imagine Montgomery can support two minor league teams. So I'm going to say, ooh, but your stupid face. Okay. How about, I'll say no, it does not exist.
All right. There is
that
no
smug look you had on your face. It had me worried for a second, but that's just your face.
Well, Montgomery is there's a lot more than one Montgomery. All right.
Biscuits,
So let's
baby, the biscuits.
Yeah, let's not
so sorry. People of
erase
Montgomery
all the other...
across America. Yeah, so sorry.
Yeah. All right. Kyle. The Litchfield Armageddon.
No, that one is false because Litchfield, it's not the Armageddon, it's something else.
All right. You got it. Litchfield Armageddon. I made that one up. What's funny is I didn't know there was a legit Litchfield team name, so I just made up a end to end. I made it all up.
Wow.
All right. We are tied 1-1. Ben.
Yeah.
The Sacramento Slammin' Sammies.
Sacramento Slamming Sammies. So is it named after, is it like a funny, cute name for sandwiches? Can't be a team named after Sammy Sosa. That would make no sense, especially how he's turned out.
That man has a skin disease. All right, let's be.
Does he?
I think he does.
Yeah, he's just seems strange and sad. I feel bad for Sammy Sosa. I don't know if I should. Maybe he's problematic. Anyways, I'm going to say no, that's not a real team because it sounds so stupid. Yes.
All right, you got it.
I really had to talk to myself.
Like, Sacramento is like the hub of all of Sammy Sosa's best fans. Like,
yeah.
He's got a condo there.
All right. Kyle. Amarillo Sod Poodles.
Yeah, that's a real one.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. You got that one. All right. We are tied 2-2.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm going to go for the legs on this one. Here we go.
All right. Ben.
Yeah.
The Newstead Newts.
Damn. I know you like alliteration, but I think that's too good for you to make up. I think the Newts are real. Damn it.
You underestimate me. Yes. I made up the Newstead Newts.
All right.
I do like alliteration though.
Good one.
So, all right, Kyle.
He's laughing at his own bullshit.
No. I love all these names. All right, the Akron Rubber Ducks.
Yeah, that's a real one.
See, Kyle, I knew you were going to be good at this game. All right, that's a real one.
Rubber Ducks. Who does that strike fear into?
I know. What a boring. What a. I guess the Savannah Bananas, though. There's kind of a shtick around like having like silly names, you know. All right, Kyle, you're winning 3-2.
Fuck you is what he just said.
All right, Ben.
Yeah.
The Hartford Yard Goats.
Come on. Yeah, I live in Rockies country. Yeah, I know that's real.
All right.
And on Sundays, they are the Hartford Steamed Cheeseburgers, which is a hat that I should have. I should just own that hat. I don't know why I don't already.
It's a good hat too.
It is.
Yeah. All right.
It's exactly what you'd think it is.
We're back to tied 3-3. Kyle.
Are we though?
We're all losing.
Yeah, there's no win. That's the thing about these games is there's no winner no matter what happens. All right, Kyle. The Gasconade Grenades.
Who? No.
All right. You got it.
I mean,
one.
They made the Bullets change their name. You can't name a team a grenade.
God.
All right. Ben.
Yeah. Did you forget my
This
name?
is the last one.
All right. For all the lucky charms.
The El Paso Al Pastors.
No. El Paso Al Pastors. I can't. I mean, I'm like such a big Al Pastor fan. I want this to be true. And this isn't like a steamed cheeseburger thing. Like it has to be their name, right? Their name that's on the building or whatever. It's not like
This is the name of a professional baseball team.
God. Okay. I want this to be true, but I don't think it is. No, you made that up.
Yeah, I made it up. All right. That was the one I was most proud of, though. Okay. The El Paso Al Pastor. Yeah. So, Kyle, you won by one.
Great job, Kyle.
Because, Ben, you got the one wrong.
Yeah.
On the Newstead Newts. So, Kyle, congratulations.
What does he win?
The trophy's in the mail.
Okay.
It's another Jim Beam advent calendar.
The amount of existential crisis I'm going to undergo the rest of the night as the winner of this is I can't even
I don't know. I don't know if you should feel good about winning, frankly, but it is the reality that you've won this game. So thank you for playing AAA or
God damn
it.
Congratulations, Kyle. You are the winner. You win nothing, but I hope you all enjoyed this, and that's going to do it for this episode of Talking About Birds. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate your time and all of the insight that you brought. Hopefully, as we truly enter into the dark days of the off season, you're able to get through it, and hopefully we can have you back on the show again sometime soon.
Same to you guys. I love it. Even the end there, that was miserable. I've enjoyed every second of
it. I think that should be the tagline of the podcast. Even though it was miserable, I enjoyed it. Yeah. Thank you so much for all the time, Kyle. We really appreciate it.
Yep. That's what we're going for. So we'll be back next week. Another episode. And until then, go Cardinals and go acquiring more starting pitching.
Y'all, bye.